Welcome everyone to the Women Are Worthy show. I got to tone it down a bit because today I am so excited. Today's show, we have a wonderful guest. We are honored to have Allison Giddens. She founded the Georgia chapter of Women in Manufacturing, and she currently serves as vice chair. Did you guys hear what I just said? Did you hear what I just said? She founded the Georgia chapter of Women in Manufacturing. Whenever I think about manufacturing, I think about men. Okay, don't send me any emails. I'm just telling you what I thought when I would think about manufacturing. Now, I want her to share her journey and tell us how in the heck did she get into manufacturing? Because we talk about, although women make up nearly half of the working population, 47%, we still remain underrepresented when it comes to in the manufacturing industry. So men historically have held that position. So Miss Allison, before we even go any further, I want to give you your roses while you're here because you've received many roses. I see that you are the recipient of Georgia Manufacturing Alliance in 2016 Frontline Leadership Award, and in August of 2016, the Georgia Tech MEP Face of Manufacturing. I'm having issue with you, Miss Alice, and I'll tell you
Uh-oh.
why.
Okay. Uh-oh.
My husband, I thought, loves me. Anything that comes to welding, he totally ignores me. So let me tell you why my husband fell in love with you. And now, thanks to you, I have brownie points. So I can do anything right
Oh,
now. I'm going to
good.
get away with it because you were recognized in 2017 Women of Excellence by Metalforming Magazine. Wait a minute. When I showed this to my husband, because can I tell you, he gets the magazines. And he's like, let me go back and see if I can find this. I'm like, look, slow your roll, honey. Slow your roll. Okay. Stop it. Because he was fanning out on me, Alice. And he's like, because he welds, okay. On his spare time, he loves welding and
Is he
anything.
looking for a job?
I'll talk to him about it. Well, he works for the post office, but this is what he does, and he also restores old cars. So whenever I have women such as yourselves on the show, I'm like, I can do anything, Allison, and get away with it right now because I've received so many brownie points because of you. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome.
I want to thank you for doing what you're doing and taking the lead in Georgia. So can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into manufacturing?
Sure. So thank you so much for having me on your show. This is great. This is a lot of fun. So my name is Allison Giddens, and I grew up pretty much in Cobb. And first, I thought I was going to be president of the United States of America when I was a kid, which still is not off the table. And then I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian. And then I ended up working for a large corporation in sales and marketing. And after a few years, I enjoyed the experience, but I realized I needed something where I could go home and know that I did something that day and that the initiative that I was taking, it was productive and positive. So I called my neighbor who I had pet sat for when I was 14 years old, and I said, I want to come work for you. And he said, you don't even know what I do. I said, I don't really care. I know it's a small business. And apparently, when you work with small business, you make a difference. So I went to work for him. And 14 years later, I now am the co-president of the company, along with a coworker of mine, John Hudson. As of October 1st now, we run and own WinTech. So it was kind of a whirlwind looking back on it, how I kind of got dumped into manufacturing. And in hindsight, I think it was all very natural. The combination of being able to make something tangible and make a difference intangibly, that kind of cross section. So that was kind of how I ended up where I'm at.
What is the misconception that people have about manufacturing?
So, manufacturing, we do a really crummy job of marketing ourselves. The misconception is that it is dark, dirty, and dingy, and that it's yucky and it's in a garage somewhere that's not well ventilated, and that it's yucky and you can get hurt and all these things. And that's about as far from the truth as you can get. It's you could eat off of the floor in our shop most days. The lighting in our shop, there are so many different things that you look at from the quote old days of manufacturing and then today's, and the stuff that you make using essentially computers that talk to machines. And it's crazy. If we did a better job marketing ourselves in manufacturing, we'd have no problem getting people through the doors for applicants.
Well, let me put a note to myself, and maybe I need to get into that field to market.
Yes.
You know what? Because when I told my husband we were talking about this, he was speaking like French or German or something, because he was getting so technical with me. Because then he'll like turn on videos and like, look at this is manufactured, with the computer, and I'm like framing like, okay, yeah, I get what you're talking about, but I don't. But I had to do some research because I was going to have you on the show, and I wanted to act like I know what I was talking about, because I'm sure he's going to watch it now. Now, all the shows I do, these are the shows that he watches.
Just
Okay.
throw out some acronyms, you'll get it.
Thank you. So, what can we do? We're in the United States. What can we do to support people such as yourself?
Well, first off, we can start showing those in manufacturing to the next generation. So you can't be what you can't see. And
Right.
so when you've got a kid growing up and mom's a teacher and maybe dad's a banker, then chances are that child might be exposed to bankers and teachers and might gravitate towards one of those professions. Not always, but it's likely. It's common. But it's not often that somebody has a parent who is in manufacturing these days that will follow those footsteps. We have a skills gap in the industry where, for a long time, there was an entire generation that did not consider manufacturing as a career. When now, when you look at it and you look at the needs, you can search CNC operator or CNC programmer on the internet, and they're very well paid jobs. And people like myself were desperate to hire those kinds of people. There are lots of opportunities for on job training as long as you have some basic skills and basic understanding experience. You can nearly write your own ticket with some of these jobs. But I think as a community, the best thing we can do is try to expose our young adults to the industry. And that is, befriend your local manufacturer, take part in career days. We just had manufacturing day on Friday. There are a lot of virtual tours out there because of COVID. Nobody could really do in-person tours throughout the country, but kind of the silver lining is everybody did virtual. So it's at your fingertips.
And that's what I want people to understand, because there's some kids that may not want to go to college. And I'm always talking to them about welding, technical schools, and I'll add manufacturing to that list as well, because I come across so many kids. Because when my husband was showing me this CNC, and to be honest, I got involved in this whole thing that I started liking it. I was watching, I think it was New York City Choppers or something. It was a motorcycle show, which I loved. And then they were talking about CNC. So that stuck in my head. So I would see what they would do. And then my husband, the expert, is, he goes all Einstein on me and loses me. I'm just watching it for the love, and he gets all technical on me. And I'm like, dude, can I enjoy without you stopping it? Like, let me tell you what this does. And I mean, he loves things like that. Anything, the welding, CNC. I mean, oh my God, he does all that stuff. So, what I'm hearing is we need to make sure, not just talking about career day, banker, doctor, lawyer, we need to add the technical things. And this is, whether people know this or not, this is the heartbeat of our country. Manufacturing and the technical jobs, that's the heartbeat of our community. Now, what do you like about what you're doing?
It's all about problem solving. It's all about from day to day, whether somebody's on the shop floor trying to turn a blueprint, a 2D blueprint of landing gear that goes on an aircraft, and they have to turn that piece of titanium into that landing gear, whether it's that or whether it's somebody at a desk looking at something and trying to determine stress capabilities on a part, or whether it's somebody else on another computer trying to determine, okay, what is the most cost effective way for us to run this part. You have all these different levels of problem solving that ultimately, if you're in manufacturing and then you decide to go to a different career or a different industry, if you have this kind of problem solving on your resume, you can do anything. And vice versa. If you come from an industry where you like puzzles, you like the problem solving, you like the idea that you can turn something from nothing or that you can answer questions you didn't even know existed, that's the kind of stuff that it's fun. And I mean, talk about job security. Manufacturing didn't shut down when COVID shut down the world.
That's true.
As much as I am not a fan of COVID, obviously, but
Right.
I was loving that traffic on March 18th. I mean, it was crazy to see everybody talk about essential employees being doctors, of course, and nurses, of course, and manufacturers. I mean, the world still had to run. If this whole craziness has anything to convey to anybody wondering about an industry to get involved in, Manufacturing does not shut down.
Janet Lynch said, "You can't be what you can't see." She said, "Very true." She also said, "Wow, that is awesome in what you're doing." So let's say the phone rings and President Trump sees you on our show, which he watches often, okay?
I get
And,
it. Yeah.
yeah, and he says, "You know what? I like this Allison person. We're going to give you $2 million to make your wish come true. What you think would better this environment or business? What are the two things you do with the money?"
There was a great concept I was exposed to in April of last year. I went on a trip called STEM the Gap, and it was a joint venture between the Department of State, United Kingdom, and the United States. And I'm sure I've got the acronyms mixed up, but it was between the UK and the US. And
Okay.
we traveled, a bunch of women in manufacturing from the Southeast US traveled over to the UK in Manchester mainly, and we got to see all the different stuff that they're doing to get this next generation excited about manufacturing and fill the pipeline of workers. And there's something called, and you can look this up, anybody who's interested, it's MTC, a Manufacturing Technology Center, I believe. And I think there are 7, maybe 11 different centers like this all throughout the UK. And it's different manufacturers that have come together and supported this center, and they have young adults from ages, if memory serves, 15 to 18. And as they enter the center, there's a whole area of the building that is dedicated to teaching. So it's
Mm.
classrooms, it's all that. And then the other half of the building are machines, CNC machines. There's a laboratory, there's all this hands on stuff. And so part of the day, the students are in school, and the other part of the day, they're working. But the manufacturers that are involved in this MTC, they sponsor kids. So as we were walking around as a group, and there were equal number of men and women or girls and boys, that was fascinating to me. It wasn't your 23% manufacturing women, it was 50-50. And these 15, 16-year-old kids were walking around side by side. Some of them had polos on with a corporation logo. So some had, I want to say Boeing, somebody else had GE, so different company names. And I asked, why do some of them have the polo and some of them don't? And they said the people that have the polos are the older students, and they are basically in an apprenticeship program through that company under our roof. My mind was blown. It's like, wait a second. So you're telling me that these kids just left junior high ish, 14, 15, meandered on over to the MTC, continued their school with a purpose, and ultimately get hired on right as soon as they turn 18? Holy cow. They told me a story about an 18-year-old girl at Boeing who had just graduated from MTC. She was the only one who could figure out how to create some rivet efficiency of sorts. She was making the equivalent to 80,000 US dollars right
Wow.
out of school. So I would love, if I had $2 million to just do whatever for the sake of workforce development, it would be create some sort of center that could be the seed for that. Because not only is that providing the resources for that pipeline, but holy cow, when you walked into the center, it was beautiful, it was shiny. I mean, it was attractive. I mean, you have to make manufacturing sexy.
Mm.
And at this point, something like this building, holy cow, the whole purpose was to exchange ideas. And I joke with my counterparts overseas because I'm like, well, I feel like I stole more of yours than I gave you any good ones. But they had some fantastic ideas, and I think I'd take that one first.
Well, I want you to know that we're here to help you any which way we can. Just let me know if there's things we need to put out because we're running across people and, just anything that we can do because I love that idea. What I don't like is when I'm talking to young girls, particularly about technical schools or trade or plumbing, electrician, they feel that's a man's job. They don't understand the money that's involved in this. I met an older woman. She was like in her 60s, and she said they're constantly calling her out of retirement because they're constantly looking for that. And she's African American as well. And she's like, I just want to stay home. She made enough money to buy her house. She bought her mother a house, paid off, and now she's in the process. The overage, she's buying her sister a house.
That's
Okay. And
awesome.
yeah, and so she's telling me, to get these young girls involved and, get everybody involved, but particularly young girls girls. But when I'm talking to the young girls, they feel like this is a man's job. Can you elaborate and talk more about this? Because I'm not in the field, and what does Jackie know? So, coming from someone like you, and this is your field, can you talk more about this, please?
So you're right. A lot of young women don't think that this is the environment for them. But I go right back to the problem solving and the puzzles. And I think that some companies have done a great job in introducing girls to those problem solving skills. There are things like Goldie blocks, which are basically a cross between Legos and pickup sticks and a bunch of other stuff, but
Mm,
they're trying to market to the young girls. What I would tell them, I would tell these young girls, you're talking job security, you're talking good pay, you're talking the different offers that a lot of these companies have. So, for example, welding. There are some fantastic welding schools out there. Not only Chattahoochee Tech, Georgia Trade School is a private
mhm,
welding. They are awesome. They will regularly say some of their best welders are females because of it's an art. And to be able to get into small places and to have hand-eye coordination, and there's so many skills that get overlooked just because you think, "Oh, manufacturing." If there was a different word for manufacturing, I would use it. Just
mhm.
because I think manufacturing itself, again, it goes back to the feeling like the old school thing. We've got to get out of the mindset of saying, if you can't go to college, you can go to trade school. Oh my goodness, if I hear that anymore, because I'll tell you something, if you're not, quote, smart enough to go to college, trade school doesn't want you either. And I most certainly don't want you on my shop floor if you're not smart enough. It's not about being smart. It's about what's going to drive you every day, what gets you excited, where can you find accountability in your life, your day to day, what gets you your juices flowing. I mean, if being on a manufacturing floor and programming or operating a machine, if that's not for you, totally okay. It might not be for everybody, but check out welding or check out even the HR or the finance side of manufacturing. Just because you're not on the shop floor doesn't necessarily mean you're not in manufacturing. I
It's
joke that there's no way on God's green earth that my plant manager wants me running a machine.
Because I interviewed the woman, the president of agriculture. It's a female. And we were talking about that, where they're looking for people. And so when they're talking about there's no jobs in the United States, that's kapooey. Okay. So when I'm talking to a young, they're not sure what they want to do. And they're not sure, I don't know if college is for me, not because they're not smart, they're not sure what they want to do. We have to present them with options.
Yes, yes,
That's what
definitely.
I believe. Give them options so they can see and remove that stigma from technical school and trade school,
Yes,
So I think that's what we need to do.
yes. An HVAC contractor is needed just as badly as a lawyer. When you need either of them, you need either of them now. There's really no eh, we're starting to, I think, round the corner. There are a lot of organizations and initiatives like with Marietta High School with their career academy and with Cobb Public Schools with the Center for Innovation Technology, the CITA. It's on Osborne's campus. So we're rounding a corner. We're starting to bring that stuff back of value to these students so that these students are not blindly finishing high school and it's like, now what? I mean, one of the things, what do we ask sophomores and juniors? So what do you want to be when you grow up?
Mhm.
Oh my God, what kind of question is
Is
that?
that right?
What kind of question is that? What we need to ask them is, so what do you like? What do you like to do? There was a group in Wisconsin years ago out of the Women in Manufacturing organization that we heard from the governor of Wisconsin. This must have been 5 years ago. They did a pilot program where they took students in kindergarten and they started them with like a portfolio. And every single time they completed a project that they were proud of, they put it in the folder. And the student was the one that chose what got in the folder. It carried with them from elementary school to middle and middle to high school. And at the end, that student at graduation got their folder and they could at a glance see what is it I'm proud of. So if you're not overwhelmed as a student, then you're not doing it right. But if that way, if you get it all, if you get this folder and you're a junior in high school and you get this folder and you open it up and everything's science, well, what does that tell you?
That's right.
Okay, well, maybe mom's pushing me to be a teacher, or maybe dad's saying I need to do this, but gosh, I really like science apparently.
What I love about you is your eyes just light up. I'm serious. You can tell because I believe if you do what you love, the money will come. if you're passionate about it, and that's why I'm passionate about this. But I see your eyes lighting up because when we were first talking, and you're like, then you started to explain, Alice, and your eyes just like a proud mama, talking about your business and talking about, manufacturing. And I think when I was talking to someone, not I think, we were talking about manufacturing, and they actually thought sweatshops. They actually thought it was back in the, like in New York when we had a fire that killed so many people. That's a sweatshop. So there's a lot of misconception about manufacturing. And a lot of people don't realize we have manufacturers in the United States. It's not all in China anymore. We do have small businesses that are out here, and we need to support those businesses, whether money, purchasing, spreading the word, spreading the love. And I think that's what we need to do. And then also getting the children tours and exposing them to this type of environment. I think this is so critical because people keep talking about America is not the way it used to be. Talking about manufacturing. Well, no, okay, let's stop it. We have great manufacturers here. So, what our job, and I believe, you can tell me if I'm wrong, we need to make sure we're doing businesses with people such as yourself. We need to feed into you. As I said, either we talk about you, we do business with you, we refer clients to you. That's what we need to be doing.
Yes, absolutely. You're right. Dead on.